Yeah, sure. There you go. Sierra. There you go. Everyone, drop your names in the chat. Mm, mm, there you go. Over You're welcome. All right, let's go, everyone. YouTube, drop your names in the chat. Everyone, drop your names in the chat. Let's go, everybody. Like the live. Let's go, everyone. Florence, how are you, Florence? There you go, Florence. Then we have is Burton. Then we have is Effie. Then we have is Beyonce. subscribe Karen, subscribe Fulton. Hey Peach, how are you? Mia, subscribe. We have this Paris, subscribe Paris. Subscribe everyone. Hiranor, subscribe. Hiranor, subscribe. Subscribe, everybody subscribe. Then we have is Danny, subscribe to me, Danny, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. And then we have is Caleb, subscribe to me, Caleb. Caleb, subscribe. And then we have is who in the world? And then we have is Ellie, subscribe. And we have is Lalo, subscribe Yalo. After Yalo, we're gonna write is Lenny. How are you, Lenny? Subscribe, Lenny. Subscribe to me. Then after Lenny is Enna. Then we have is Alina. Subscribe, Alina. Then we have is Xylan. Subscribe, Xylan. Then we have is um, Keenan. Subscribe, Keenan. Everybody subscribe. Let's go, everybody. Bennett, you are next. Subscribe, Bennett. How are you, Bennett? Subscribe to my channel, everybody. I go live every day. Subscribe and hit that notification bell icon thing so you are notified whenever I am live. There you go, Jenny. Then we have is Gingy. How are you, Gingy? Subscribe to my channel, Gingy. And then we have is Lily. Subscribe, Lily. Subscribe to my channel. There you go. Then we're gonna do is Lorelle. Lorelle, I hope that I pronounced that right. Lorelle. Yes, do that. And then we have is Kandeka. Subscribe Kandeka. Kandeka. Subscribe to me, Kandeka. Subscribe. Then we have is Christian. How are you? Subscribe to my channel, Christian. Christian, subscribe. Then we're gonna do is Elena. Subscribe, Elena. Subscribe to me. Then we have is Teddy. Subscribe, Teddy. Subscribe. Everyone subscribe. Let's go. Everybody, let's go. Subscribe to my channel. Mikan, you are next. How are you, Mikan? Where are you watching from? And then we have is Elsa. Subscribe to me, Elsa. Elsa, subscribe. Then we have is thank you. Thank you, C Money. Thank you for that. Then we have is Tommy. How are you, Tommy? Subscribe to me, Tommy. Here you go, Tommy. And then what we're gonna do after Tommy is gonna be Yethard. How are you, Yethard? Hope you are doing well. Yethard. Subscribe, Yethard. Then after Yethard is gonna be Eva. Subscribe, Eva. Subscribe. Subscribe to me. I'm doing good, thank you. How are you? G2 is next. G2. Subscribe G2. And then after G2 it's gonna be Hanan. Subscribe Hanan. Subscribe. Everyone subscribe and like the live. Let's get to 30 likes, guys. Let's get to 30 likes. Come on. Layla, you are next. Subscribe and like Layla. Everybody like and subscribe. Let's go. Darren, you are next. Subscribe, Darren. There you go, Darren. Subscribe to my live. And then we have. Alright, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Then we have is Zarion. How are you, Zarion? Subscribe, Zarion. Then we have is Inara. How are you, Inara? Subscribe to me, Inara. Let's go, everybody. Let's go. Journey, you are next. Journey. Nice name. Then we are gonna do after Journey. It's gonna be Alexander. How are you, Alexander? Let's go. Alexander. Alexander. Whoa. Alexander. There you go, Alexander. Hope you like it. Subscribe. Subscribe to my channel, Alexander. And then we're gonna do is Maya. Subscribe to me, Maya. Here you go, Maya. Everybody subscribe. Then we have is alright, here you go. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Malika, how are you? Subscribe to me, Malika. Malika. Subscribe. Everyone subscribe. Let's go, everybody. Stella, you are gonna be next, Stella. Stella, subscribe to me, Stella. Guys, also share this live with your friends. Then we're gonna do is Sapphire. Awesome name, Sapphire. Whoops, hold on. Sapphire. There you go, Sapphire. Hope you like it. And then we're gonna do is we're gonna be Christian. Christian. Subscribe, Christian. Subscribe. Sapphire. Subscribe. Mirax, you are next. Subscribe, Mirax. Subscribe to my channel. Everyone subscribe. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Ava, subscribe to me. And after Ava, it's gonna be like Claire. Subscribe to me, Claire. Everyone subscribe. Then it's gonna be after Claire. It's gonna be Alexa. Subscribe, Alexa. Guys, I'm I'm gonna need you to type your name fast, repeatedly, because I check the bottommost name that pops up. I catch that and I write that. So type as fast as you can, repeatedly. Chilled, you are next, Chilled. Then we have is Amelia. Subscribe, Amelia. Subscribe to me, Amelia. And then we're gonna do is Sophia. How are you, Sophia? Subscribe, Sophia. There you go. After Sophia, it's gonna be Adia. Subscribe, Adia. Subscribe. There you go. Then we have is let's go, everyone. Everybody subscribe. Everyone subscribe. Let's go, everybody. Let's do this. Let's do this. Alfie, you are next. Subscribe, Alfie. Then we have is Isla. Subscribe, Isla. Subscribe. And we have is Olivia. Subscribe, Olivia. Sure, why not? Of course I will do it. Let's go. Adley. Subscribe, Adley. Subscribe to my channel. Everyone subscribe and share the live. Let's go. Darcy, you are next. Darcy. And then after that, we're gonna do is Luffy. Subscribe, Luffy. Everyone subscribe to my live. Let's go, everyone. Let's go. Subscribe, Laura. Let's go, Laura. Subscribe to my channel, guys. I go live every day. I come live every day. So subscribe and hit that bell notification icon thing. Alright, Sarah, you are next. Then after that is Skyla. Skyla, subscribe, Skyla, and hit that like button. Everyone, let's get to 40 likes. Come on, let's go, guys. Everyone, double tap your screen. Double tap your screen. Charlie, double tap. Everyone, double tap your screen right now. Devin, subscribe, Devin. Subscribe to my channel. Isabel, subscribe, Isabel. Subscribe right now. Let's go. Isabel. And then after Isabel is gonna be, we're gonna write is Josie. Subscribe, Josie. Guys, you need to type fast, fast as you can repeatedly because I checked the bottommost name that pops up into my view. Okay? Subscribe, everybody. Let's go. Then we have is Romani. Subscribe. After Romani, we're gonna do is Amara. Subscribe, Amara. Subscribe, Romani. Everyone subscribe. Let's go. Lana, you are next. Subscribe to me. Hope you like it. And then we have is Mayan. Subscribe, Mayan. And then we have is Jackson. Subscribe, Jackson. After Jackson, it's Lil. Subscribe, Lil. And then we have is Lucy. Subscribe, Lucy. Subscribe to my channel. Everyone subscribe. As I go live every day. I go live every day. Javier, it's next. So subscribe and hit that notification bell icon so that you are notified of my lives. Amy. Let's get to 50 likes, guys. 50 likes. Come on, everyone, hit that like button. Let's get to 50 likes. Marks, you are next. How are you, Marks? Then we have his Canker. Subscribe to me, Canker. Then we have is Alfie. Subscribe to me, Alfie. Alfie. Then we have is Ellie. Subscribe, Ellie. Subscribe to me. Let's go. Then we have is Smira. Subscribe to Smira. After Samira, we're gonna do is Sire. Subscribe. Everybody subscribe. Then we're gonna do is Mason. Let's get to 50 likes, guys. Come on, let's get to 50 likes, guys. Hit that like button. Double tap. All right, Hannah. Here you go, Hannah. Thank you for that. And then we have is Czar. Thank you for that. And then we have is Amelia. Subscribe Amelia and Czar. And then we're gonna do is Ruhi. Subscribe. Then we have is Alina. Subscribe Alina. After Alina, it's gonna be Zara. Subscribe Zara. Then we're gonna do is Lilo. What's with that sad face, Lilo? Let's go. Michaela is next. How are you, Michaela? Subscribe. And then after Michaela, it's gonna be Jana. Subscribe, Jana. How are you? Then after Jana is gonna be Mary. After Mary, it's gonna be Shreya. Shreya. Yeah. Subscribe, Mary. Subscribe, Shreya. Subscribe. And then we have is Ali. Then we have is Alright, there you go. Then we got is Lily, subscribe Lily. Then we have is Super. Then we have is Poppy. After that we have is Mila, subscribe Mila. Then we have is Alina, subscribe Alina. Then after Alina it's gonna be Embre. How are you Embre? Embre. Subscribe Embre. There you go, Embrace. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe, everybody. Subscribe, alright? Subscribe. Else you are next. After Elsie, it's gonna be Vivi. Subscribe, Vivi. Oops, hold on. V, V. Then we have is Hafsa. Subscribe, Hafsa. Then we have is Daksha. Subscribe, Daksha. Then we have is Parker. How are you, Parker? Welcome in. Subscribe, Parker. After Parker, it's gonna be Lala. Subscribe to my channel, Lala. Parker, you both subscribe. Cora, subscribe to me, Cora. Then we have is Santa. Subscribe. Then we got is Jarek. Subscribe to me, Jarek. Subscribe. Everyone subscribe. Let's go. Paisley, subscribe. Paisley. Then we have is Lola. Subscribe, Lola. Then we have this Latanza. How are you, Latanza? Subscribe to me. Everyone subscribe. And then we have is Ikra. Thank you, Ikra. Then after that we have is Mahito. Subscribe, Mahito. Then we have is Victoria. Subscribe to me, Victoria. Then we have is Jade. Subscribe, Jade. Then we have is Payton. Subscribe, Payton. After Payton, it's gonna be Willow. Subscribe, everyone subscribe. Everyone like the live. Let's go. Then we have is Maya. Subscribe, Maya. Then we have is Yo, welcome, Jessica. And then we have is Selena. Selena Leiden. What? Okay. Kai. Then we have is Mace. Then we have is Kaylee. Subscribe, Kaylee. After Kaylee, we're gonna do is Mila. After Mila, it's gonna be okay, Selena. Thank you for that. I thought you said you lied. Then we have is Elsie. Then we have is Nia Rai. Nia Rai. Everybody subscribe. Amelia. Subscribe to me, Amelia. Let's go, everyone. Macy. Then we have is Embray. Subscribe, Embray. Embray. And then we have is Nia. Then we have is Rayleigh. Jasmine. There you go. Then we have is Mila. Let's go, everyone. Let's get to 60 likes, guys. Let's get to 60 likes. And then we have is Dio Kane. Then we have is Atika. Then we have is Julia. How are you, Julia? Sorry. Then we have is Carter. Thank you so much, Carter. After Carter, we're gonna do is it Negan? Negan. Then we have is Viviana. Viviana. And then we have is Zainab. Subscribe, Viviana. Subscribe, Zainab. Subscribe. Then and then we have is Linda. Linda. And then we have is Eamon. Eamon. And we have is MSI. Let's go. Happy birthday, Megan. There you go. Subscribe, guys. Everyone subscribe. Let's go. Subscribe to my channel, everybody. Yashu, subscribe, Yashu. Then we have is Ricky, subscribe, Ricky. Then we have is Natalie, subscribe, Natalie. Then we have is Emmeline, subscribe, Emmeline. Subscribe, Amira, subscribe. Then we have is Emma, subscribe, Emma. Everybody subscribe. Alright, let's go. Thoraya. So, so, yeah. Then we have is, after that is Brooke. Brooke. Alicia is next. Alicia. Tessa. Hold on. There you go. Hope you like it. Then we have is Sammy. Then we have is Jade. Everyone subscribe. Quinton, you are next. Quinn. Quinton. Quinton. Let's go, everyone. Double tap. Let's get to 70 likes, guys. 70 likes. Come on. I already wrote your name, Nishka. Remy. Then we have is Julia. Then we have is Malia. Subscribe, Malia. Then we have is Addy. Subscribe, Addy. Preston. Subscribe. Preston. Subscribe, Timmy. Timmy. Timmy, subscribe. Everyone subscribe. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Linda, you are next. Linda, let's go. After Linda, we're gonna do is Ricky again. Welcome, Ricky. Guys, share this live with your friends as well. Olivia. Olivia. There you go, Olivia. And then after that, we have his. Let's go. Alright, then we have his Braylon. Braylon. Then after Braylon, it's gonna be. Okay, is that a name? Or are you just hungry? And then we have is Juliet. And then we have Payless. And then we have. Let's go. There you go. Clayton. Subscribe, Clayton. Amija. Subscribe, Amija. Everybody subscribe. Then we have is. Then we have is Rihanna. How are you, Rihanna? Subscribe, Rihanna. Everyone subscribe. Mercy, 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 subscribe for subscribers to Aaliyah. Subscribe, Aaliyah. Subscribe to me. There you go. Then we have is thank you. Then we have is thank you. Then after Theo, it's gonna be Owen. Subscribe, Owen. Subscribe to my channel, Camilla. Subscribe, Camilla. Then we have is Aliza. Then we have is Max. Then we have is Roxana. Hold on, guys. Roxana. Then what we're gonna do is there you go. Then we're gonna do is Jesse. What we're gonna do is Mio. Subscribe, Mio. Everyone subscribe. And we have is Preston. Subscribe, Preston. And then we have is Dee. Dee. There you go, Dee. Thank you. And then we have is it's gonna be Tristan. Subscribe, Tristan. Tristan. Here you go. Then we have is Joseph. Joseph, subscribe. Then we have is Miska. Subscribe, Miska. Then we have is Ricky. Subscribe, Ricky. Then we have is Ariel. Subscribe. Ariel, subscribe. Then we have is Parker. Subscribe to me, Parker. Then after Parker, we're gonna do is something. Subscribe something. We have is Mina. Subscribe Mina. After Mina, it's gonna be Jano. Subscribe to me, Jano. Subscribe, everyone. Subscribe. Let's go, everyone. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Then we have a Sage. Subscribe, Sage. Subscribe to me, everyone. Let's go. Guys, share this live with your friends as well. There you go. Subscribe. Then we're gonna do is Imara. Subscribe to me, Imara. Then we're gonna do after Imara, it's gonna be Muller. Subscribe, Muller. Then after Muller is gonna be Olivia. Subscribe, Olivia. Olivia. After that is gonna be Sayan. Then we're gonna do Alex. After Alex, it's gonna be Shane. Shane, Shane, Shane. After Shane, it's gonna be Kira. Kira. Then after Kira, it's gonna be Mark. Then we're gonna do is how about this baby? Then we have is Gra Graham. Then we have is Kelly. How are you? Welcome in. Subscribe, Kelly. Guys, I go live every day. Okay, so subscribe and hit that notification bell icon thing and like this live, guys. Everybody, let's go. Norina, you are next. Thank you for the sub, Norina. You are next. After that, hold on, guys. Then we have is Tune. Subscribe, Tune. And it's gonna be. Let's go, everyone. Hold on. Then we're gonna do is Marks again. Then it's gonna be Nelly's gonna be next. How are you, Nelly? Subscribe to my channel, Nelly. Subscribe. If you're new here, then we have is Ruma. Subscribe, Ruma. Everybody subscribe. Then we have is Adriel. Subscribe to me, Adriel. Adriel. There you go. Everyone subscribe. Let's go. Then we have is Gel. Then we have is Noah. Subscribe, Noah. After Noah, it's gonna be James. Subscribe to me, James. Subscribe. After James, we're gonna do is Alyssa. Subscribe to me, Alyssa. And after Alyssa, it's gonna be Yoshimi. Thank you so much. Where are you from, Yoshimi? Yoshimi. And then we're gonna do is Lily. Subscribe, Lily. Subscribe to my channel. Guys, I go live every day, okay? So subscribe and hit that notification bell icon thing so you are notified of my lives. And then we have is here you go here. After that, we're gonna do is Doza. Subscribe, Doza. Then we have is Jisoo. Jisoo. Then after Jisoo, it's gonna be Macaron. 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 After Macaron, we're gonna do is Astrid. How are you, Astrid? Subscribe to my live. Subscribe to my channel. Then we have is Zara. Thank you. Then we have is Isabella. Isabella. After Isabella, we're gonna do is Branson. Branson. Then we're gonna do is Irene. Subscribe, Irene. Then we're gonna do is Rachel. Subscribe, Rachel. Subscribe to my channel. Let's go, everybody. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Robert, welcome in. Subscribe, Robert. Here you go, Robert. Hope you like it. Then we're gonna do is Izzy. Subscribe, Izzy. Subscribe to my channel. Everybody subscribe. Let's go. Lorraine, you are next. Lorraine, subscribe. Lorraine, everyone subscribe. Let's go. Then we have is Lennox. Subscribe, Lennox. Then we have is um Cosmo, subscribe Cosmo. After Cosmo, we're gonna do is Max, subscribe. Max, subscribe to my channel. Then we have is Demoni, subscribe Demoni. And then after Demoni, we're gonna do is King, King, subscribe. Everybody subscribe. Aria, subscribe. Aria. And then we have is Noah, subscribe Noah. And we have is Sharon. There you go, Sharon, subscribe. And then we have is Hannah, subscribe Hannah. Then we have is JV, subscribe JV. Subscribe to my channel. Everybody subscribe. Everyone subscribe. Let's go, JV. Subscribe, JV. Come on, guys. Let's go. Natalie, you are next. Share this live, guys. Need friends as well. I would really appreciate it. Then we have is Charlie. Subscribe, Charlie. Charlie. Then we have is Jonas. Subscribe, Jonas. There you go. After that, we have is Darcy. Subscribe, Darcy. Subscribe. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on, Darcy. Darcy. Then we have is Seth. Subscribe, Seth. Then we have is Lewis. Subscribe, Lewis. Then we have is Siri. Subscribe, Siri. We have is Fiona. Subscribe, Fiona. Hold on, Fiona. Let me do that again. Right after Fiona, we're gonna do is we're gonna do is Ariana. Ariana. Then we have is Adelaide. Adelaide. Then we have is Valentina. Valentina. Then we have is Miris. Subscribe, Miris. Everybody subscribe to my channel. Everyone subscribe. Eliza, you are next. Subscribe, Eliza. Alright. And then we have is Malila. Subscribe, Malila. Lila. Then after that, we're gonna do is Marcus. How are you, Marcus? Subscribe, Marcus. Then we have is Kevin. Subscribe, Kevin. Subscribe to my channel. And then we have is Louis. Subscribe. And then we have is Sophia. Subscribe, Sophia. After Sophia, we're gonna do is Rihanna. Subscribe, Rihanna. Alright, guys, I gotta go now. Thank you all so much for being here. Guys, thank you so much for the likes. And guys, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Subscribe and hit that notification bell icon thing so you are notified of my live. And alright, I'll be back again. I'll come back in like an hour or so. So take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next live. Okay.